as we observe Women's Month in South Africa, we look at the role of women in leadership and participation in politics. Our focus today stemming, of course, from the 2024 Commission for a Gender Equality study on gains made, gains lost, women's representation in the 2021 local government elections in South Africa. Well, the study proposed measures to strengthen gender equality ahead of the 2026 elections. The CGE reported that women's representation in local government had declined from 41% in 2016 to 37% in 2021, reversing previous gains. Let's chat a bit about this now. I'm joined by Mokgadi Mogane, who's a commissioner at the Commission for Gender Equality. Ms. Mokgadi, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We do appreciate your time. South Africa requires, enforceable legislation, I guess, to achieve 50-50 gender representation. So, the decline that the study has found is actually quite worrying, isn't it?
Criselda, it's very concerning to note this decline. And looking at our own history as South Africa, and let's go back all the way to 1956, when over 20,000 women marched in unison, regardless of their backgrounds, to say that we want to take a stand. And today we are, it's 70 years later. And you ask yourself, what was that all for? Are we understanding the gist or the crux of that march in itself? Because representation is what matters, and it's very key for us to address those. Yes, Criselda.
Yeah, and what are some of the main reasons for this decline that you found in the study?
First of all, I must state that, the environment, the nature of politics in itself is, in essence, quite toxic. We need to be very open and honest with that. So in as much as we are empowering and encouraging women leadership to step into these roles, we need to be also very honest with the conversations as to what is found within these environments as well. Of course, it's very hostile. There is also this legislative representation regression that is mostly found in parties themselves having to be voluntarily, implementing these gender equality frameworks that are in place. So noting that there is none of these parties who are actually looking into this, if we're voluntarily stepping into this, it's about us making that decision. It's a big cry for individuals. And of course, when you look at in the internal party barriers themselves, we find that there is the crew, there's the team, there are cliques, there are factions within these political parties that still need to be dealt with, and it's very key for us to be able to administer it. And of course, the difference between electoral administration and political will. Those things are very key for us to address. And of course, this threat of online GBV. We also see a lot of, right now, the political killings. We've seen female councillors being murdered in broad daylight. And you ask yourself, what is the impact for these on women who are mothers, grandmothers, taking care of their children? It's worthwhile for them to also give up, those responsibilities for this call.
And, obviously, during a Women's Month, a lot of conversations will be had about, the scourge of violence against women and children. On the issue of, abuse of women, if we talk about issues such as sexual harassment, there were also some findings in that study. Just walk us through some of those, please.
It's very heartbreaking to discuss this because, when you think of the political woman that we have, bravely so and boldly so say we believe that she will represent, because every woman-centric issue needs woman-centric solutions as well, and women must be in the forefront. What we've realized is there's a lot of this tit for tat or quid for pro, you'll get the position if you sleep your way through certain places. We have seen an indication of that. We've seen assaults being made where individuals are even afraid come up and say, listen, because of where I am today, I can't speak up because there have been advances made, there have been promises made. And it's so heartbreaking to note because at the end of it all, that's why I said, let's take it back to 1956. It was a bold move, it was a bold statement to stand there, regardless of what might have happened. And it is now today, and we are seeing that there's intimidation, there's still this typical pro that if you want to be there, you will just be the face, or we'll just tick the box with you as a woman representing our political party. And those are concerns we raised with the individual parties as well, because most are also complaints that are sent to us anonymously that we must also respect. But it's very heartbreaking to note that there's still that internal issues that are there, the patriarchal standards that are in place. And as I mentioned, if the cliques are there, the factions are there, and it's about, listen, woman, you cannot just step in. It's a major wake-up call. For us, this study, the key aim was, let us introspect. May these parties introspect themselves individually, that if a woman is in that party and she cannot speak up, something must give. That is the biggest one. Yes, Crystal.
Yeah. And I mean, what about support, for women, balancing political leadership, with the responsibilities of being mothers, being, pillars inside their homes, practically?
Criselda, we were talking about this, the motherhood penalty. And it's so important for us to look at it, because those are part of the issues, not just in politics, but even in private sectors, where they say, if we were to give this role to Mokgadi Mogane, in a couple of months, she might be pregnant and we have to now lose the bottom line because of her absence. So those are cruel discussions we need to address, because at the end of it all, there needs to be reasonable accommodation made so that there is definitely equality that is reached. There needs to be provisions that are made. It's a must. It's our human right.
And I mean, what were some of the recommendations, coming from the study? What do we propose should happen in order to rectify this decline?
Criselda, you started off with it's the law, it's policies in place, frameworks in place, but are they enforceable? I think for us, the biggest recommendation we made is like the IEC, one of our sisters institutions, they need to be given that equal legally binding power so that those quotas are met. It shouldn't be a voluntary matter that is discussed. It should be a must. So those must be enforceable, and then institutionalize these internal party reforms and, of course, codes of conduct. When we review these manifestos, you see that there's a hope of we will reach out, there's promises made. But our question was, how will you reach out and bring the solutions if the women who are supposed to be representing those concerns raised are not even in the forefront? They always say the cream of the crop is who are our leaders. And we ask, do you mean that none of those women who are registered, signed as members, cannot become the cream of the crop? So we ask those intense questions. And of course, we are mandating there must be gender responsive manifestos, which is very key, and budgeting to ensure that these parties' representatives are able to lead accordingly. And of course, lastly, I want to say this, let us eliminate just ticking the box. Let us eliminate tokenism and secure substantive power. As I mentioned, we do not want to just tick the box and say, fine, there's 50% women, but are they making an impact? Is their voice being heard? That is the aim. That is the gist of these and why we are hoping for that gender equality. Yes.
On a bit of a positive note, the study also found that, parties with formal gender equality policies and voluntary quotas generally performed better.
And it comes back to, Criselda, what I always say when I'm engaging with individuals, that gender equality in itself is about this phrase that the rise of women does not mean the fall of men. I'll repeat it again. The rise of women does not mean the fall of men. We are not here to get even. It's an understanding that there is a heavyweight that is on individuals who are already current leaders. But if we bring in that equality, we'll be able to address these issues accordingly. We'll be able to ensure that some are not just sidelined as soft issues, but are all put in line. Because if municipality is not treating street lights, then of course there will be hardships when we are moving around in the dark. Someone will be a victim. So we need to find out what is the impact of lack of water in areas. How does it affect the girls, the boys? We need to be able to actually sensitize ourselves. And as women, you bring that element of sensitization to certain issues in a gendered lens. And that is the gist and the key aim for gender equality. Yes, there is success. As I mentioned, that rise of women does not mean the fall or undermining of men. It's about everyone's rights being seen and heard. It's Ubuntu, Criselda. It's Ubuntu. Can we go back to basics? Everyone's right needs to be promoted. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Mokgadi Mogane, who's a commissioner at the Commission for Gender Equality. Great having that conversation with you. Thank you for joining us on SABC News.